Mack Brown finally beats his alma mater FSU, and this was an Omarion Hampton-sized beatdown.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show. My name is Isaac Shade. I'm your host, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Good grief. My word, Carolina just went down and did work in Tallahassee, and now we get to be here to talk about it. So shout out to all of you everydayers for being here. All the great members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Welcome in. Let's get after it. This episode is brought to you. This live reaction podcast episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, gang, let's get into this thing. Carolina crushes Florida State 35-11. Carolina is now 5-4 on the season overall, 2-3 in ACC play. Noles, on the other hand, fall to 1-8 overall, 1-7 in ACC play. And as I said, Mack Brown has finally beaten his alma mater. He can now rest in peace. Always want to keep us up, by the way, on who the Tylee Craft jersey honoree is in a given game, and today it was none other than Christian Hamilton. Great stuff there. So here's how we're going to do this, how we do our live reaction shows. Have several reactions for us. We'll take a break. More reactions. We'll take another break. And then I'm going to go check out your questions and comments that are coming into the chat for those of you that are with us in real time on YouTube. And then we'll get out of here after that. And then for those of you that are listening back to this on audio, welcome in. I'll get this uploaded later on Saturday evening. So make sure if you're joining us in real time, you're going ahead and popping in your questions and observations so we can get to those later. Two biggest stories in this game are the O, and I mean that both the offense and the Omarion Hampton. See what I did there? And then the defense with a big time follow-up to what they did last week at Virginia. So let's get right into this thing so we're not wasting any time. One of the things we had to watch was, yes, Florida State comes into this game with a miserable record, but there is no denying that they're a talented team, albeit not really at quarterback, and that's where the main issue has been this season. But a team with this much talent, at some point, you're thinking they might be able to put something together, and you just don't want it to be against you. You want to be the team that carries on the losing. And in order to do that, basically what you got to do is come out and make a statement and not let them get any hope, not let them get a glimmer of light that they might be able to do something. They had to make Florida State think that they had absolutely no shot. And then you would imagine that Florida State would give up. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened. Carolina followed that script, and you got to feel great about it. However, I'm not going to lie. I was getting nervous at the very beginning of the game just because of some of the things that have happened this year. Carolina didn't convert on that first goal line opportunity. Omarion Hampton gets stuffed on fourth down. We've seen that a couple times this season, and then things have not gone well. Well, the good news is that Carolina's next 7 drives after that, you ready for this? Touchdown, touchdown, end of first half, touchdown, the one punt in that sequence, touchdown, touchdown, and all 5 of those touchdowns courtesy of Omarion Hampton. We'll get to him in a little bit, but man, Carolina had to go out, snatch this thing, this bull by the horns, or whatever phrase you want to use there, and not give Florida State hope, and that's what it was. And you would imagine that Florida State, again, the weakness is in the offense, and Carolina's defense needed to show up, and they did. Snatch the life out, and y'all, it was weird. Obviously I wasn't down in Tallahassee. I was at my home here in Missouri, but it just felt lifeless. You could see Florida State like deflating. Carolina would get a run or had multiple big time third down conversions. And it was like, they just didn't even want to be out there. Talented guys, sure, but they had no will. We had a Will Hardy. He had a nice pick. Great. But like Florida State was clearly, they're just done. You can see it. It's at that point in the season, they can't get the bowl eligibility, all of that. So you had to break their back. Carolina did. And then beyond that, like the environment at Doak Walker Stadium was just dead. It felt like you could hear a pin drop. It felt like a funeral on their season. They just haven't been able to have nice things ever since, unfortunately, the Jordan Travis injury, and then they didn't get to the playoff last year. It's been all downhill from there. And kudos, though, to Carolina for taking advantage of that, because you can't just assume you're going to waltz in and win, and the Tar Heels did not do that. They have now looked really good in back-to-back weeks, and that is encouraging. I joked on our show yesterday that all Carolina had to do was hold Florida State to 21 points, or all Carolina had to do was score 22 points or less, because Florida State hasn't scored more than 21 all season. And in fact, they haven't scored 20 on American soil, because the one time they got 20 or more was in Ireland. And so Carolina went out, and not only did they do that, but they held Florida State to a season low 11 points. And that is saying something, because Florida State has not done well. So Carolina, their defense held FSU to a season low in an already bad season. Okay, so let's get now to the defense first. And I want to start by talking about Kaimon Rucker and his impact. As you look at his stats from this game, there's nothing wildly overwhelming about just the numbers. But the thing is, you can't just look at the numbers. Kaimon finishes with 5 total tackles, 1 solo tackle, 1 sack, and 1.5 TFLs. And to look at that, it's like, okay, that's a fine game from Kaimon. And what I love, though, is that 5 tackles, like, led Carolina, like tied with a couple other guys, with Bo Atkinson and Amari Campbell. But it doesn't matter, because where Kaimon Rucker is so critical is in his impact that he makes. For example, he might not get the sack, but boy, is he going to cause the disruption that might lead to somebody else getting a sack. And his impact is felt in such a massive way every time he's out there. And you see, even in the turnaround of what Carolina has done the last 2 weeks. So legitimately, I put this out on Twitter earlier on Saturday. I started wondering, and it really kind of got me down because it's unfortunate and disappointing. What would Carolina's record be this season if Kaimon Rucker had been fully healthy? Now, I think what you appreciate is you realize just how impactful he truly is when he's not out there. But legitimately, Carolina is 5-4 right now. Those losses, those 4 in a row to James Madison, Duke, Pitt, and Georgia Tech. I don't know about the James Madison game. He might not have helped that because that was just a dumpster fire. But of those Duke, Pitt, and Georgia Tech games, you got to think you at least win 2 of those if Kaimon Rucker's in the lineup. So if I look at this thing, I think a fully healthy Kaimon Rucker this season means that Carolina is either 7-2 right now or 8-1, with maybe the only loss to JMU, which is a non-conference loss, and Carolina could be undefeated in ACC play. And I'm not saying they would be, but man, there's a great shot. And that's both disheartening and encouraging, like season-long disheartening, but encouraging for what the rest of the season could be based on what we've been seeing now. Because I want that to lead us now into our conversation about the defense. Carolina, in those 4 losses, let me remind you of the point totals they gave up. 70, 21, 34, and 41. Prior to that, it had been 7 in the 3 wins to start the season, 17, 20, and 10. Carolina has now reverted to, or not reverted, because that would be has a negative connotation, but has gone back to that. And in the last 2 weeks have allowed Pitt just 14 points and Florida State just 11 points. And I know that neither of these offenses are setting the world on fire, Virginia and Florida State, but still, you got to go out and do it. And Carolina has now done so. Just think about even the sacks. Going into last week at Charlottesville, so in the first 7 games of the season, Carolina had 15 total sacks. You'll recall they had 10 sacks in the game against Virginia, and they had another 5 in the first half today against Florida State. That means in the 3 halves of football from the Virginia game and the first half of the Florida State game, Carolina matched their sack total from the first 7 games of this entire season, and then finished with 2 more in the second half of this game. So in the last 2 games, they have 17 sacks compared to 15 in the first 7. And I don't know if that's going to continue to happen as we look on down the road. But man, I think the Tar Heels have found something, and you got to keep leaning into it. Let's enumerate these sacks. 1 for Kaimon Rucker. The guy we got to give all the love to is Bo Atkinson, who had 3.5 sacks, 4.5 total TFLs. You had a half sack for Javari Ritzie, a half sack for Des Evans, and a half sack for Kevin Hester for those 7 total. I mean, just really impressive stuff. And then not only that with the defense, but yeah, I mean, you look at them doing what they needed to do to Florida State. 2 3-and-outs in the first 3 drives for the Noles. And that was in the first half. In the first half in total, Florida State had 5 drives. 4 of those were punts. They had 61 total yards, 33 pass, 28 rush, and they were 1 for 6 on 3rd down. And I mean, things didn't really get much better for the game. Florida State, I mean, just did not do much of anything. 201 total yards, 159 through the air, and just 42 rush yards. Again, that's going back to what Carolina was doing at the beginning of the season. In totality, Florida State was 2 of 10 on 3rd down. And we'll get to Carolina's 3rd down offense, but they were 11 of 16. Whoa, that's impressive. And then, of course, you know that Carolina finishes the game with back-to-back picks, the really, really impressive catch for Will Hardy, and then Elijah Huzzy just being in the right place at the right time and hauling in, you know, a catch as Florida State was getting into desperation mode. So the defense, man, how would they follow up the Virginia performance? Was that a one-off or something of the new state of things? At some level, I got to admit, we might not know because Florida State is awful on offense. But again, Carolina did it, and now that's back-to-back. They get another open week, and then we'll see what happens from here on out. All right, we got to flip to the other side of the football. Look at what the offense did today. Woo, baby, Omarion Hampton, what a dude. And so we're going to get to that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. What you need to do is hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn who knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and not might have the time or resources to hire. And what they're doing is constantly finding ways to make this process easier for you. So join the 2.5 million small businesses that are using LinkedIn for hiring and post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the box score for us while we continue to talk right now. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see that going on. All right, I want to switch our attention now to the offense because how have we gone this long without giving Omarion Hampton all the love and flowers in the world? This dude goes for 172 rushing yards on 32 attempts, 4 touchdowns on the ground. Could have been 5 on the ground if you'd been able to punch that first one in. Oh, and by the way, let's not forget that Omarion Hampton, 3 receptions for 93 yards and another touchdown. And look, some of those, you know, I talked about Florida State just looking dead and defeated. I feel like they just gave up on some of those plays. It almost felt like, you know, like if you're down at the end of the game and you almost lay a touchdown so the other team can score and you just get possession back. It almost felt like that. And look, he did it though. Omarion went out and put together an unreal game. And this now, Carolina has played 9 games. He has 800-yard rushing games this season. And I'll just keep reminding us, the only game he doesn't is the Charlotte game. And that's just because he didn't finish it. He was well on his way to crossing 100 yards yet again. And so would have had 100 yards in all 9 games had he been healthy in that one. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. Omarion now has 3 more regular season games to keep chunking yards on. And then if he should so choose and Carolina is able to get 1 more win this season, he'll have an opportunity in a bowl game as well. Again, if he wants to. Obviously, this offense is not just made up of Omarion Hampton. It is also made up of an offense that's looking much more comfortable all the time. Offensive line that just allows 1 sack in this game. And if I remember correctly, that sack was toward the end of the first half. Yes, it was on Carolina's last drive right before halftime, where they're just kind of, just trying to put some pieces together, see if they can get into field goal range, which they did. Burnett missed a long one. That's fine. And so, man, this offensive line is doing well. But I'm telling you, folks, Jacoby Criswell looking more comfortable all the time. Obviously, didn't have to do much through the air in this game, thanks to the Omarion Hampton rushing attack, which, by the way, I should go ahead and also note Davion Goss, who had a nice day on the ground, 9 for 54. Had a couple more carries than he typically is getting, just giving Omarion a chance to get off his feet. Jacoby Criswell had 8 carries for 18 yards. Darwin Barlow finally able to get in and get some action, 3 carries for 23 yards. Connor Harrell getting in late. Charleston French getting in late, and all those things happening. But for Criswell, 13 of 17 through the air. And again, I know it's not a wild high volume, but that's a completion percentage of 76%. Back-to-back weeks now at 60% or above. And that is what I have been begging and clamoring for. And just Criswell doing it, man. And I know there was, I remember in particular, one overthrown ball to J.J. Jones. And so that's just, there's some touch things that we're still waiting to see. But I remember another one that he had a really nice touch on. I think he was trying to drop it into Paysor and just couldn't connect with it. But, I mean, you see it even in the way I mentioned Carolina's third down capability. 11 of 16 in this game, while Florida State, again, was 2 of 10. Just finding guys and receivers making plays. How many times have we talked about needing receivers to step up and make plays, and multiple guys making big-time catches? Copenhagen had several strong catches. I remember a catch, Kobe Paysor coming back to the ball and then able to get some chunk yardage after it. Christian Hamilton had a tough catch in the Tylee Kraft jersey, right? And so multiple guys on Carolina's offense really starting to step up. Jake Johnson had a catch in this game. Good to see him getting out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him now that Bryson Nesbitt is out. Obviously, Copenhagen can do a lot, but you get that as well. And so really encouraging stuff from the offense. And I want to point out one drive in particular. It was toward the end of the first half. Carolina gets the ball back with 10 minutes and 8 seconds left on the clock before halftime. It's like, all right, what's going to happen here? How is this going to go? And Carolina holds the ball for 8 minutes and 11 seconds, easily the longest drive of the game. They had another drive where they just were able to run out the clock for the final 6.5 minutes at the end of the fourth quarter. That was great as well. That's part of the beauty of having this strong running back stable, man. It's so great. But that drive, that 8 minute and 11 second drive, which resulted in Omarion's second touchdown of the day, was probably the most impressive drive for me, man. Just chunking it together, completing multiple third downs. It was great stuff and was really, really encouraging. So that drive was the standout. That was the Isaac Shade drive of the day. Was really, really pleased with that. So big picture now. What has Carolina set themselves up to be able to do? Well, I've already said it, but the Tar Heels are now just 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Here's the great news. Reminder that just 2 Saturdays ago, Carolina had an open week before going to Charlottesville, has won on the road now, back-to-back weeks at Virginia and now at Florida State. And now they get another open week I almost wish they wouldn't because the momentum's going so strong, but you get to kind of lick your wounds a little bit, see where things are going, and then move on from there. So here's the closing stretch. You host Wake Forest, then you go to Boston College. That's going to be probably miserably cold. And then you host NC State, who Carolina has to beat this year. And as I've been saying, I'm going to say it yet again. All 3 of those games are winnable games, especially the way Carolina is starting to look now. Jacoby Criswell settling in. The rest of the offense is looking more competent and confident around him. The defense feels like maybe they've figured some things out now. And so it's great. So all of them are winnable. However, if Carolina should revert back to that 4-game losing streak, all 3 of those games are also losable by any stretch of the imagination. And sure, as I said, you just need one of those wins to go bowling. But man, my sights are now set on something bigger. This is a Carolina team that can flip-flop what they've done the past 2 years. This is a team that can now close strong. This is a team that could close with a 5-game winning streak to end the regular season. And I know I'm looking further ahead. They got to take it one game at a time. But there's no reason Carolina could not beat Wake at home and go up and knock off Boston College and then finally get over the hump against NC State. Thank goodness Peyton Wilson's not there anymore. They're a great linebacker. But man, there's so much possibility there. So yes, Carolina could go bowling, but my sights are set on bigger and better things. Carolina could finish this regular season 8-4. And as a reminder, that would actually match what the Tar Heels did last year in the regular season. Can you fathom that? Like how different that feels? If we had said that 3 weeks ago, you would have laughed at me. But here we are. And man, there's a lot of possibility ahead. Take the open week, keep working, keep grinding, keep getting better, keep getting guys healthy, and then come back and just knock out these final 3 games one at a time. Really impressive stuff. Really proud of this team. Really proud of their fight, for the coaching staff, for keeping it all together as well. All right, want to get to your comments and questions coming up here in just a second, right after I tell you another ad. From our good friends at FanDuel. Hey, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL right there, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Carolina hosting Elon Monday night to kick off the regular season. It started at Carolina by 30.5, has bumped down now to 29.5. So if you want to get in on that action or anything else, go check it all out at FanDuel.com. Don't waste a hunch. Go make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, going to check in here on our comments and questions coming in from you guys who we have. Not a ton of them, so we'll hit these and then say a few closing words, getting ready for basketball on Monday. Mention Isaiah Dennis, and then we will get out of here as well. I'm going to leave the box score up as we talk. So comments. Man, good stuff here. A basketball question to kick things off, of course, because that's how it goes, because we're the Tar Heels. From Fabian Thompson says, Isaac, can we land Caleb Wilson, or is he Kentucky bound? Y'all, here's what I'm going to say about basketball recruiting in this day and age. It is so all over the place that I could tell you one thing right now and tell you 3 different things in the next 3 minutes, and you could believe any of them, and I could too, and none of them could be absolutely true. As recently as this time yesterday, it felt like Isaiah Dennis was going to Wake. It felt like the Demon Deacons had gained all the momentum in this thing. And then this morning, it kind of was like, nope, this thing's flipped on its head again. And Carolina's going to land him. Sure enough, he commits to Carolina on Saturday afternoon. And so then switching back to Caleb Wilson, look, Caden Lewis just went there. Jasper Johnson has committed to there. Kentucky has landed some absolute dudes. So it's kind of a question of, is Caleb Wilson going to want to go be there with his buddies? Is he going to want to go somewhere else? Or does he want to come be like right now, what he would be the crown jewel in Carolina's class? I'll say it this way, Fabian. I think there is still a very good chance that Carolina could land Caleb, but so could Kentucky. And so we got to see what happens here. All right, Jimmy Howard says, can they, the football Tar Heels, win the last 3 games? And that also, he's really waiting on Monday night. Jimmy, here's the thing. Yes, I legitimately think that Carolina can do that, can win these remaining 3 games. I'm going to pull up just here on my side of things, the ACC standings right now. Wake Forest, 2-2 in ACC play, 4-4 overall as we record this. Kind of in that same boat that Carolina has been in, but no reason to think that the Tar Heels couldn't do that. And then as you look at Boston College, remember they started off kind of strong, but Castellanos, their quarterback, has been in and out. They too right now are 4-4 overall, 1-3 in ACC play. And then you close with NC State, who is 5-4 overall, just like the Tar Heels, and 2-3 in ACC play. So that's why I say all of these games are just right there in winnability or losability. Just teams that all feel clumped together. But Carolina, if they take this thing one at a time, if they take it seriously and keep putting their nose to the grind, and I think they're going to want to. I think they are fighting. I think they have Tylee Kraft in mind. I think that's a big factor. I think they know that they are not the team that went on that 4-game losing streak. And unlike Florida State, who's packed it all in and like, we're done, not these Tar Heels, man. They want this, and I really think they can. And then, Jimmy, I'm right with you, man. I cannot wait for Monday night. By the way, I just finished up my record book prep, and you get free access to that if you're a Locked On Tar Heels insider. The link for that's in the show notes. Would love for you to come join that program, Jimmy and others. Man, it would be great. Tony Dowd says, how badly have we underestimated Jacoby Criswell's skills? 3 question marks. Where would Carolina be if he had never left? He was so far behind with Carolina's offense when the season started. Tony, man, I am with you on this thing. Let me start actually with your second question. Where would Carolina be if he had never left? The Tar Heels, I don't know that they would have gone out and gotten Max Johnson. Maybe they would have gotten another quarterback just as some insurance, but I think legitimately Carolina would have gone into the offseason with like a Jacoby Criswell versus Connor Harrell for next year's QB1, for this year's QB1. And man, like, I have so much respect for this young man, because think about how many people would have said, I would embarrass myself by going back. I can't run back. And he swallowed his pride, and he took the humble approach Jacoby Criswell did to say, yeah, I'm going to come back. I'm going to do this and come back and be part of this program. And that's incredible to me, and I love it. Now, if Carolina had never left, it's kind of the same conversation that we were just having about, like, hey, what if Kaimon Rucker had been fully healthy all season? I think we'd kind of be in the same boat. And now the encouragement for me is, keep in mind, Jacoby Criswell has another year of eligibility. And so with this young stable of receivers, man, there's a lot of possibility there. Now, as to the other thing, how badly have we underestimated Criswell's skills? I feel like I can confidently say I never underestimated how strong his arm is. And we saw that on display today. Like that throw where he was almost sitting down and just kind of flicked it to, who was it? Kobe Paysor. There was a flag on the play, so it came back. But and great job by Paysor to kind of come back and get it. Really impressive. But what Criswell has done in other ways, feeling more comfortable, feeling like he has a better idea of when to take off. Something I appreciate that he does that Drake never did was Criswell knows how important he is and gets down in a quick hurry. And so, I think there's been a lot of underestimation of his skills. And so, y'all, I'm really grateful for these Tar Heels and what they have been doing. Really proud of them, and know that there are still big things ahead this season. Now, let's turn our attention to basketball because, wow, as we record, it is 8:32 p.m. Eastern time. That means 48 hours and 28 minutes from now, the Tar Heels are tipping off the basketball season. It's a late game. I hear that and I understand it, but I will be with you after that for a live reaction show, but I will not be alone. Tar Heel national champion from the 09 team, Mark Campbell, is going to be joining me this season on a lot of our live post-game reactions. So make sure that you buckle up for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys, again, thank you so much for joining us to celebrate this win. Carolina back above 500. It's great to see. Week off next week, open week, and then hosting Wake Forest 2 weeks from today. You guys, if you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second. Hit that bell notification on YouTube so you get notified as soon as I go live, and then you can tap right in. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, again, would love to have you. You can text me directly, one-on-one. You get to see all of my stats and charts and data, all of that great stuff. 2-week free trial to check it out, and then just $5 a month after that. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, man, now's the time to join that as well. It's a great community of Tar Heels, absolutely free, and that link is in your show notes as well. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back again on Monday's show to preview Carolina hosting Elon, but until then, peace.